I don't know if we'll use these papers again this week, but let's just keep them handy anyway. There. So last week we were talking, we started the mitzvah of Kesef Talves Ami, the mitzvah to lend money. And we were discussing the Chavetz Chaim, how he learns that the mitzvah of Kesef Talves Ami, of lending money, is a chelek, is a part of mitzvah tzedakah, and in a way it's larger and greater than the mitzvah tzedakah for two reasons. One is because you are not embarrassing the ani, and more is because it could be encompasses another mitzvah. What's the other mitzvah? The other mitzvah is v'hechazakta boy. V'hechazakta boy means that when someone's about to fall, perhaps you can hold them up so that they shouldn't fall. And that'll be a chiddush of the mitzvah of halva. You can lend someone money and be mekayim mitzvah v'hechazakta boy. Now that's true even if you lend money to a person who's technically not an ani. Maybe he's technically not an ani, but Afal Pikein, he right now needs money because otherwise he loses business, or otherwise he can't pay his mortgage, or something going on, a different Indian, that he needs money right now to pay his employees or something, but he's not etzem, a poor person. So you could be mekayim mitzvah v'hechazakta boy, but it wouldn't be the mitzvah of tzedakah to an ani. But if you give the loan to an ani, you're being mekayim the mitzvah of tzedakah. So we mentioned the halacha, and that it would come out according to this, that you could, if someone comes to you to ask you to borrow money, you could use your meiser money to give it to them. Because this is the kiyum of a mitzvah of tzedakah. Now, you are a little bothered by that, or it's a chiddush to you. So, we're looking into it further. So, a few chidushim over here. Excuse me. Okay, so a few chidushim over here. So, the chidushim are like this. Number one, this actual idea that Chavetz Chaim says that the mitzvah of the hechazakta boy, according to the Rambam, is part of tzedakah, is actually a machlokes in the Rishonim. The Ramban argues on that, and the Chavetz Chaim himself brings it down. The Brisker Rav brings it, and others bring it. That this pasuk that I have over here, the pasuk at the bottom of the page, says Kiyamo chachicha. If your friend is getting weak, umata yadoi imach, and his hand is getting, you should put your hand there. V'chazakta boy, hold him up. Ger v'soisha v'chai imach, so he should live with you. Okay. Now there's a whole musar over here. The Chavetz Chaim brings down chai imach. If he's going to live with you. If you don't help him, you're going to live with him. In other words, you're right now doing fine. He's about to fall. So help him up and he should live with you, meaning also as a person that has a parnasa or whatever. Chavetz Chaim brings the measures, because otherwise, you let him go, Hashem's going to let you go too, and you're going to live with him. So you're going to live with him regardless. So your choice. You either you bring him up or you're going to go with him. So that's how he says that's how he explains in Al Pi Musar, the pasuk. But the pasuk saying, make sure he doesn't fall. So the Rambam lists this as a part of tzedakah. The Ramban, in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Rambam has the Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Ramban has the list of mitzvahs where he argues on the Rambam. So he brings down this mitzvah of mitzvavinu lahachyois ger toishav lahatzil b'roi mera'asa. I didn't bring it there. You have to help a ani. Shimhaya tevea b'nar, whatever it is. Then he says, you have to give him life. The Rambam says it's part of tzedakah. The Haim, Shtayim, mitzvahs, it's really a separate mitzvah. So the Ramban says that this type of loan, when you're helping someone that's not necessarily an ani, this type of loan is a separate mitzvah. So now the Chavetz Chaim says like this. This that I'm saying that you could lend money with your meiser money is really only according to the Rambam. Because according to the Rambam, it's tzedakah. According to the Ramban, maybe not. We ask him like the Rambam. But he would say that according to the Ramban, maybe it's not so partial. However, what is the minhag ha'olam? Let me ask you. Do we do only tzedakah with our meiser? or do we also use our meiser money for chesed? Technically speaking, again, it's a good thing this week Zalmi's not here, so I'm about to say something he's not going to like. But technically speaking, meiser money is for tzedakah, which means tzedakah is, according to the Chafetz Chaim, two things: hachzakas haTorah and giving to poor people. But supporting chesed organizations does not go into meiser necessarily. So, for example, Hatzalah, which is a need of the community, but that wouldn't go into meiser technically. It's above and beyond meiser. It's between meiser and chodesh. Beyond meiser is Chai Lifeline, Bikur Cholim, and Hatzalah. These things. Tomchei Shabbos is poor people. Things which are poor people, or Achzakas HaTorah. The Chafetz Chaim says that goes into meiser, the Iker meiser. Beyond that is what you do chesed. Chesed technically does not go into meiser. It sounds like a chiddush to people, but this the Chafetz Chaim says, and look around everyone.
Speech.
What? Exactly, the same concept. So that would mean that chesed organizations, so says the Chafetz Chaim, according to that, loaning money is a chesed according to the Ramban. So according to the Ramban, it's only chesed, so you can't use your meiser. But according to the Rambam, it's tzedakah, you could use your meiser. But if the minhag ha'olam is that when I set aside my meiser, I'm assuming I'm going to use that for all the things in the community, including chesed, so you're allowed to have that in mind. If you didn't have it in mind, then you go by the ikar halacha, which means it has to be for tzedakah. But if you had in mind that when I set aside my meiser, I'm doing it to include chesed, then you're allowed to give to Hatzalah. So if a person is giving their money to Hatzalah and Chai Lifeline and Bikur Cholim, then you could also give their money as a loan, for sure. If they're very makbid that their meiser money is for tzedakah, then it'll be subject to the machlokes, the Ramban, and the Rambam. That's what Chafetz Chaim basically says. I think that the minhag ha'olam is to use their meiser money for chesed. So that is a minhag ha'olam. But beyond that, we pass like the Rambam that it's tzedakah. Okay? So that would be the nafkamina.
What's the makar that I could use meiser for tzedakah as a mitzvah? And if there's a...
It's not mitzvah. Because that was what meiser tavua was. What was meiser tavua? It was used to be machzik people who didn't have land, i.e. the Levim and the Kohanim. So the purpose of meiser in the Beis HaMikdash had a dual purpose. To be machzik those who don't have their own land, and happened to be that the Kohanim and the Levim taught Torah. Right?
So it's not because it's a mitzvah that you
therefore
want
be
to use it.
machzik yidei, machzik. If you have a poor Talmid Chacham, right? So then you have people that they're learning, and that's their parnasa. So then you have both. They're aniyim and machzikei Torah. So giving. I mean, not that any negias or anything, but if you're giving to Koili and Galai is the highest level of meiser because it's both tzedakah and meiser and hachzakas haTorah. But technically, giving to a yeshiva or anything or aniyim is a kiyum of meiser. Chesed is beyond that. Okay? So chesed is beyond that. So therefore, loaning money, according to the Ramban, is a chesed. According to the Rambam, it's tzedakah, and that would be the nafkamina.
You're talking about Ma'aseh Ksafim?
Ma'aseh Ksafim, yeah.
It's so far off from the Torah, so how...
Yeah, but he said the minhag was up here this. The minhag was to do as similar we could to Ma'aseh Tzvua, which is to give to aniyim or to...
So again, if you're going to minhag, then it's not...
No, he said the original takana. The original takana was to do similar to Ma'aseh Tzvua, which is to aniyim and machzikei Torah. So that's what he holds. The Chafetz Chaim should be the ikar of your meiser. Tzedakah and machzikei Torah. Beyond that is chesed, and that would depend. Now,
if you loan money as tzedakah or as meiser or as chesed, and a miracle happened and you get paid back.
Yeah.
do you have to keep that in?
Okay. So let's talk about that now. Now I want to go to the next point. So now the Chafetz Chaim goes a step further. 2 steps further. 2 steps further he goes, which is not unbelievable. So 1 step further he goes, says, Lamaisa, the Chafetz Chaim says, I really like the mitzvah of tzedakah, of loaning. I like the mitzvah of loaning. I think it's a very good mitzvah. Because that means you feel good about it. You can loan someone money. If he's asking for a loan, that means he's not that desperate yet. That means you're saving him from becoming desperate. So there's a real Indian in giving a loan. It's not the Chafetz Chaim. Therefore, I would suggest that in your meiser money, you give away 2/3 of your money as tzedakah. But 1/3 of your meiser you should keep to give loans to people. That's the Chofetz Chaim holds. So so far he holds that it's a kiyum of meiser that he goes look you should loan a third of your meiser. You should loan a third of your meiser. Now, to Shmuel's point, the Chofetz Chaim is very clear that what we're talking about, loans, is loans that you're going to get paid back. You have some guarantee you're going to get paid back. Either you took a mashkin, you took from him a mashkin, or you have a raven. You have a way of making sure you're going to get back the money. If you're not going to get back the money, we're not talking about that. Maybe that just goes into giving it away. We're talking about you're going to get back the money. Okay, hypothetically. So the Chofetz Chaim goes so far as to say that lechatchila you should set up a third of your money, of your meiser, should be for loans. So that's how far he goes with it. It's a big chiddush. Okay?
If you don't get paid back, could you write it off that you gave my
Yes, in some you write it off. You didn't get paid back, yeah. But he said, lechatchila, you could do this. He says, I'll read you the lashon. It's in Avos Chesed, Chelek Beis.
So you have to keep that money in loan circulation then. You can't, it's never yours personally again, if you get paid
According,
back.
at this stage, yes. He says, Ata nova levar eze derech yavar adam latzis dechavas mitzvot chesed betmidus. It's not there because this is much later in the Sefer. So he says, Yafresh Meiser from your Revach. All your property you should separate Meiser. Umizeh, and from this, Yifazer, Shnei Shlish Leim Tzedakah. 2/3 of that you should give away to people that need it. Ushlish Yemunach Etzle Kedei L'Kaim Midas HaChesed, which is to loan out the money. And he brings on the bottom, he's just like the Ramban, whatever. He brings that whole piece. But that's the Chofetz Chaim holds. So clearly he holds that we're going with the sheet that is tzedakah, and you can loan a third of your money, assume it stays in circulation. He discusses later, if you don't have a lot of money to loan, so it may not make an impact, maybe you should get together with other people and make a gemach and loan your money to gemach. There's different things he discusses there.
Well, why needs to be 1/3 from where it comes to be?
He doesn't bring a source for that. He's saying it himself.
We make like a question that says that Rob needs to be for Torah, and then you can use the rest for.
He's not getting to that chiluk right now. He doesn't get into that chiluk. Now, then he says like this. He says, what happens? We're going to say it. He doesn't say these words. Well, let's say we're going to say these words. As a pet peeve of my chavrusa. That let's say somebody made sold a property at a big gain, and then he does a 1040 exchange.
1031.
1031 exchange, not 1040, not anything. 1030 exchange.
1031.
1031 exchange. So he doesn't have to pay the taxes on the revach that he just made. So people make a gzera shava between the IRS and Hilchos Meiser. And if I don't have to pay Meiser on it, then if I don't have to pay taxes on it, then I don't have to pay Meiser either because I never took the money. I just reinvested it into another property. So the Meiser, the halacha kipshuta is not like that. And if it's considered a different business, then you kind of, that LLC that owned that property, that or whatever, that property was one business, that's over. And then you switched it to a new business venture. So that's over, you cashed out, now you're reinvesting into a new business. So kipshuta you chayv meiser on it. So that says the Chofetz Chaim. What about a guy, it's very hard for him to give meiser. It's a lot of money or whatever, it's very hard for him to give the meiser, he doesn't want to give the meiser. The meiser I give, once I buy the new property and I'm making revach on it, I have no problem, I'll give meiser off the revach. But I don't want to give meiser off the Karen. Right? I'll buy the new building, I'm making money off it every month, every year, I'm giving meiser, no problem. But this money that I have is my Karen, it's hard for me to get a meiser. Says the Chofetz Chaim, to help the person get over his Yetzer Hara, he says he could take all of the money and set it aside for loans. That's what he said. Set aside for loans. And then, he says, theoretically, if he needs the money, he could also be a beneficiary of the loan. Because you could loan yourself the money. And then you loan yourself the money, and then you could pay it back to the Gmach. So, theoretically says you can Makani Meiser even like that, where it's 100% for loans. So this is for this type of case where he says it's very hard for the guy to give Meiser, it's hard for him to give it away, and whatever, but he says you could do that. In the bottom, on the footnote, he wants to know, which is what the Ilm is wondering, is who owns that money? Let's say he sets it aside for Gemach, and then he dies. Is the Gemach its independent ownership, and now the Gemach lives on? Or really, it was his own money, and he was just Meshabed himself, like a Shibud Aguf. He took upon himself a mitzvah to use that money to loan money, but his kids are not Meshabed to that, they don't have to. And theoretically, the money would belong to the children, or, and it's still really his money, or he Mamash gave it away to Meiser. He just, Lemaisi, instead of giving it away to Anim, he doesn't see it anymore, he gave it away to a Gemach, and he could still borrow the money, so that makes him feel better emotionally. But really, it's not his money anymore. So this is a shaila he has, how to explain what happens over here. But he says, if you did that, if you did this, and you set aside your Makai Meiser whatever, then Shamois lo yu be'etzem shalol v'asayv, yoytze b'zei de Meiser l'chul. That's for sure. So this is a very big chiddush. He's saying here that you could theoretically fulfill your Meiser by giving it all over to Gemach, as long as the ownership, became kind of this Gemach. But again, you could theoretically be a beneficiary of the Gemach as well and take out the money. So if a person has a suffix, or they're kind of trying to, wiggle out of this case of paying Meiser off the Karen, theoretically you could do this as an Eitzah. Okay? But this is the Chavetz Chaim says. My point in bringing this out is to show in all these sources that the Chavetz Chaim holds 100% clearly, again, the Ramban, but basically that with Didan, we would fulfill the mitzvah, the chi of Meiser with lending money. Okay? And this is assuming money comes back into the Gemach. Obviously it doesn't come back and doesn't come back in. But assuming it comes back in. Okay, he also brings an El Yerabah that says like this. The El Yerabah said, now, again, this is talking about loaning someone money that needs the money for their basic living expenses. He's talking about loaning someone money for a business deal. That could be for sure is only under chesed, not under tzedakah, and that would be subject to that other machlekes if you could use your mitzvah money for hatzalah or the chasadim. But but for sure, lending someone money that needs the money would be considered tzedakah according to the Rambam, which we pass like, and that would be mutter to use your mitzvah money for it. Okay? So far so good?
So the definition of an ani, sugis throughout Shas about how an ani has, barely enough to have one meal per day. And
Yeah, so we're talking about that, yes.
today, when you're supporting someone, a young man in Kyle or whatever it is, there's no way they're
I
considered
think
an
Ani
ani
today,
law.
and I think Mara says 200 zons, right? Does he have? So I think that the way we understand it is that do they basically make enough income to pay their basic needs, to have money for their basic needs? No, 1 meal, 2 meals. That's an Evian for Purim, maybe. There's a shear of an Evian that from Matanos Avyonim, it needs to be someone that really, literally, maybe you're helping them buy food. Even that we don't really pass him like that. I asked Rabbi Forsheimer in Lakewood about if you have somebody that, they're whatever, month to month, but they basically make it work, and they're making a chasima now. Does that qualify as an Evian? Can you give them a Matanos Avyonim? Because now they have an extra expense. It's 100% you can give them a Matanos Avyonim. Someone making a chasima. So,
It's not, or it is?
It is.
Oh.
So,
In other words, normal life expense is
right. It doesn't have to be that that if you don't give him the money, he's going to die of poverty.
right. I know the child was once asked because in the times of the Gemara, there's no such a thing as insurance. You didn't have to pay for, windstorm insurance or homeowners insurance. But now that's part of life's expenses.
You can't own a house otherwise.
Right.
Unless you have enough cash to pay you without a mortgage. Right? So
If you give a loan without a guarantor and without...
I don't know. Then I don't. The sometimes not such a thing.
But do you have to, what my question is, if you give a loan without a guarantor, without a mashkin, do you just, in your mind, just have to assume that you're not getting it back, that you're doing that?
Not have to. But the reason you have to is because Moshe said, Because otherwise, you're able with naiver also, with another avera. Because then if you expect him to get it back, but you really think he's not going to get it, then it's also to do that because you're now causing him to do an avera of not paying a loan.
But isn't it more of a hesed to give somebody, somebody doesn't want to get a handout, but they feel better about receiving a loan?
Okay, so then in your mind, you're not expecting it back. You're just playing along with his game, but really not. But the Gemara says it's really a loan. I need the money. I cannot afford to lose this money, and I'm giving it to him, hoping he's going to give it back. L'maisa, I feel bad, taking the mashkin, this and that. L'maisa, slip either. The Gemara says that the Gemara talks about someone came to one of the Amiroim on Erev Shabbos to borrow money, and he said, I can't lend you money now because no one's available to be the Aiden. So Aiden? I'm your neighbor, what are you Aiden for? Because otherwise, if I lend you money without Aiden, and I want to write it down, and I want to have two witnesses, then it's Lifnei either.
But nowadays you can see if they're wiring the money, you have proof that it was done.
But nowadays, the fact that you have Aiden still is not necessarily a motivation to pay back. Aiden has nothing to do one with the other. In order to get paid back, you need a mashkin, and you need.
You're always saying that you could prove that the loan was made.
But over there, it's even a greater chashash. Over there, the Gemara was assuming the guy, he's an honest guy, he's my neighbor. If there's a chashash, in order to protect his own integrity, he's going to lie and say he never borrowed the money.
So text, WhatsApps, emails.
No, that's okay. Then you have a raya. That's ksavyoda. That's ksavyoda, like the Gemara says.
Right, you want to have a paper trail that you left in the money, so it's Saviado or
Right, but now I didn't deal with that. He admits that he owes you the money, but he's still not paying back. So the Maisa, you have to, we're talking about to be responsible, and then he says when you run a gemach, you really should be makbid to take mashkin, because otherwise the gemach will be diminished very quickly. Yeah.
Let's take a rate. Most gemachs today go on Arabis.
Most gemachs today will take an Arab and will take the Arab's credit card number. Yeah. You charge your credit card when it's due.
Wait, so you're saying you cannot lend your friend? You can't just lend your friend $20 without any aid or anything? 'Cause
Oh well, you can afford to lose that $20, let's say.
So as
So
long
therefore,
as,
you don't mind
if
if
it's
he doesn't give you
not
back, technically.
so as long as it's a little enough money, a few $100s, whatever it is, that if he didn't pay you back, you'd be like willing to forgive it.
You're willing to write it off, and you kind of in the back of your mind are thinking. In that
Worst
way.
comes to worst, he doesn't pay you back, no big deal.
What happens
But
if he pays
if
back?
he's thinking like that, does the other guy get the avera of not paying it back?
He should be moichel it. Now, I don't know if that's good enough.
Does he have to mochel it orally or just in his heart?
Well,
I took when I was in Buffalo, my Rashiva said, whenever you're going to make a loan, if it's any kind of like minimal number, $100, whatever it is, don't make loans. It's a matana. If you want to give it back, then give it back to me. But don't call it a loan.
You have to give
Because
it.
God forbid
Why?
they forget to pay you back. They're over theirs. Lend me $100. Nobody's going to
yeah,
remember.
but he's saying a good point. Then when he pays you back $100, you have to take off $10 nicer.
And it's not.
Okay, so now everyone wants to do that.
Okay.
Reverse interest.
There's a nice one for Kanievsky, the guy found him a ton.
Right. I mean, look, it should be written down, it should be organized, and eventually, if a person thinks about it, they should either be moichel.
So if a person writes it off and then the guy pays back, then you have to give myself.
Yeah, okay, next question. We discussed last time, are you mechuyev to forego potential gain to lend money? Okay, now, most people are going to forego some sort of gain to lend money, unless it's miser that you have sitting in your donor's fund account or in some other, or some sort of account that you lend him the money, so you're not really benefiting from the money sitting there. So it doesn't matter to you where the money is. But if you're going to go take money that you have sitting by you and lending someone money, what's it doing by you? Pashtus, it's making money. Right? Hopefully, you're doing something with the money. So if you're gonna, are you going to take money out from where you have it and lose money in order to give someone money for free. So we already brought the Gemara. The Gemara says that you're mechuyev to lend a yid before a guy. For the Gemara, obviously, you don't have to lend a yid before a guy. It means even if the guy is willing to pay interest. So it's a first Gemara. You have to be mechuyev to forego interest in order to lend someone money for free. So the poskim have a big tumult. What does that mean? In the olden days, the Jewish parnasa was money lenders. So that parnasa is over. You can no longer be a money lender to goyim because you have to lend to Jews for free. So obviously, if it's your parnasa, then you're allowed to continue that parnasa. You don't have to take out all your money and go lend for free. So basically, what we said is last week we were talking about a minimal amount. Okay. Now. This is talking about when it's not your meiser money. So there's a big chiddush that when we were learning the Chavetz Chaim, we came across. What the Chavetz Chaim is really saying is, let's say it's not my meiser, and it's money I guarantee I will get back. I have no thought in my mind I'm going to lose the money. I'm going to get it back. Why? Because I took a guarantor, and I know the guarantor, I took his credit card information. I'm going to get the money back. I'm not concerned. Okay? Now, but he needs the money right now, this guy. And let's say it's not even a poor person. Let's say it's a person that needs the money temporarily for something else. But it's a chesed, right? So, the shaila is, am I mechuyev to forego potential gain to do a mitzvah? So don't we all say, obviously you are, right? Because otherwise, why do I have to buy a lulav? The money that I'm spending on the lulav could be in my bank account. It could be in the market making money. Obviously, we're willing to forego money to give a mitzvah. So, says the Chavetz Chaim, and here you're not spending money out of pocket, you're just foregoing potential revach. So, says the Chavetz Chaim, kipshutai, if you could afford it, you're mechuyev to loan money, even not from your meiser, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You could, now, again, nowadays everyone's worried about lending money because you can never get it back, so it can be different. But assuming you're going to get it back, give them a free loan. What's the problem? Well, I'm making money. If you need that money, and that money is part of your overall parnasa, we're not talking about that. But let's say stop, I have extra money sitting in the thing. It's nice to make extra money on the side. If I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. So at the time, theoretically, you'd be mechuyev to forego that money to give someone a free loan. This is my
If it's closed up in a CD, you have to buy the CD?
to lose money already, to pay out of pocket is different. To pay out of pocket, Moshe says you're not mechuyev. So I'm not mechuyev to go open up a line of credit to go lend you money for free. I'm mechuyev to pay money but we're talking about only if you're just talking about foregoing a revach. Foregoing a revach, he holds a mechuyev. Next shadow.
If you open up a line of credit, obviously there's interest.
Right, you can't charge him interest. But Ramosha says
Saying that
the
it-
interest that you're paying, you can take off your meiser. That's the cost for you to do chesed.
He asked to open up the account. You're
We
doing
discussed
yourself-
that last week.
Yeah, I'm saying you're doing someone a favor, and he wants to pay like.
So you have to do heter iska on that. Next question on that note. Giving someone money with heter iska, which let's say the heter iska is just to cover your expense. In this case, okay? I borrowed money from my line of credit at 5%. I'm going to just re-lend it to you for 5%. I'm not making money, but I'm just having enough to pay my expenses. Right? But I'm going to do it with heter iska. So Chavetz Chaim is mashma, you don't get the mitzvah of lending at that point.
Oh, what do you get? Nothing.
It's a nice thing. Chesed maybe. But really an iska is really a business. So technically speaking, Chavetz Chaim holds it's not really necessarily a mitzvah. They bring down in this thing, the Peli Yaitz maybe argues on, if my whole intention is really just to help him, I don't really care about the 5%. That's not the point. The point is just that it's not really a business transaction. Very often, a heter iska is made on real transactions. So then, you're doing it as a business. But if you're doing it as a chesed, it could be that it would be a mitzvah. Okay? But it's not so partial. So it could be in that case, you're losing the mitzvah.
The mitzvah gave it all the time, but yes, the mitzvah you have. It's the mitzvah say.
Right, the mitzvah of chazak you have. Yeah, that you would have. Because unless without your money, he would be losing his job, he would be losing his business. So that mitzvah you get, for sure. The chazak because you're helping him survive. But the mitzvah in Kesef Talva, maybe you're not getting because you're not doing a free loan. the Chofetz Chaim discusses a very interesting shaila, which is, if, I mean, no one can weigh in on this, what do you think? You lend someone $12,000, and he says, I'll pay you back $1,000 a month. Do people like that, or people don't like that? Lamaisa, I had $12,000, I had a certain amount of, had a fixed amount, and now the money's coming in, I lose track of it, it doesn't have the same chshivas. Or, if I'm going to make my money, I'm getting my money, I don't really care. Chofetz Chaim is mistupik, if when you lend the guy money, and he says he's going to pay you back monthly, if you're mechuyev to do that inside the mitzvah. Whereas the mitzvah, assuming he's going to replace for you the exact value that you got. Interesting suffix. And then he says you do the mitzvah in adrabah. If it's a mitzvah, then it's a higher mitzvah because you're making it easier for him to pay it back. But he's not klar if necessarily it's a mitzvah. The other suffix that Chofetz Chaim has, very interesting suffix, is what about extending credit as a store owner? Is that called Kesef Talvis Ani? You own a grocery, and he said, so it doesn't mean the kiyum of the mitzvah, but does he have the same chiyuv? So he says a store owner is not mechuyev to lend money. You don't come to him with that mitzvah and say, hey, lend me money so I should be able to buy him credit, I'll pay back eventually. Because he needs the money to run his store. So you're like the guy with the, that his business was lending money to Goyim, and you're telling him, close down your business because lend for everyone for free. The store needs the money to run. So if the store needs the money to run, if he's going to start giving out people credit, he's not going to be able to run the store.
Customers feel that way. They keep the vendors net 60, 90, 120, and they don't pay.
On nursing homes especially.
Don't push
But
that.
grocery stores do lend.
I feel like I have ownership in a lot of.
Right.
But grocery stores do lend. They have credit.
No, it's beautiful that they lend. It's
So
beautiful.
that would be.
No, they're kind of mitzvah, but is he mechuyev to do it?
Oh, good.
A
Okay.
guy comes and he can't afford the food, or he could afford it, whatever. He asks to put on his thing. Does he have to feel guilty? Like, hey, it's a mitzvah. So, first of all, there's no mashkin there. I don't know if he's getting paid back anytime soon. You know, so, but there was. There's a local. Oh, I don't want to say it. No, a very chashuv story. I just don't know if he wants to say. But he is mistupik about that. Okay. Okay. Next shiloh. So what's the chiyuv? In Hilchos Tzedakah, we know that there's a seder kedima. Right? People in your city first, etc. So your kroivim, your relatives, come before non-relatives. Says the Chofetz Chaim, that seder kedima applies to loaning money as well. So if you have enough money to lend to your neighbor or versus another guy, you never first. To lend to your relative versus a non-relative, the relative is first. That's like the Chofetz Chaim. Whatever Hilchos kedima exists in Hilchos Tzedakah exists also in Hilchos Halva. Now, Chofetz Chaim declares the following shayla. It's a great shayla over here. He wants to know what happens if, because kroivim have a chiyuv to lend, so he says, what happens if two people come to me? Okay, first of all, obviously, if two people come, one is an ani, one is an ashir, you get to the ani first. One is they're both aniyim, but one of them needs it for food, one of them needs it for clothing. Food comes first. One of them needs it for clothing, one of them needs it for his mortgage. The food comes first. The clothing comes first. Okay. Fine. Zok the Chofetz Chaim like this. What happens if it says like this. In both von Shnei Anashim, Echad mehem yesh lekroivim ashirim sheyicholu lahavois echad. Two people come to you, and one of them, you know that this guy, his brother-in-law, is the biggest deer around. How do you know? Because his name is on every building in the city. But this is his sister and his brother-in-law, and they can't put food on the table. And he comes to you for a loan. So another guy comes to you for a loan, and this other guy has no one to turn to. who do you give to? Are they the same? Or you makdim the guy that has no kroivim?
I
It
think
says the Chavetz Chaim.
the Rambam's pretty clear on that in terms of priority.
No, you're relative. But let's say two people, neither is related to you.
Oh, okay.
But one of them has relatives who are wealthy.
Oh, one of them has relatives.
So you're thinking to yourself, why should I lend him the money? Let him go to his relatives.
Because
Says the Chavetz Chaim.
Tachlis and Tish, they don't have wealthy relatives to go to either.
Right. So it says the Chavetz Chaim, you should, that's him, stam pashtos, you should give the guy who has nowhere to go. He comes to you, you should give him, the other guy has where to go. Sagt the Chavetz Chaim, but ich ach im hu tzoyek v'oimer, shehakroivim einam roitzim lehetiv imoy. I can't go to them, they don't want to help me. Then Shneim Shom. So unbelievable. It's like the Chavetz Chaim, just because the guy has kroivim doesn't mean that the kroivim want to help him.
What if he's embarrassed to go to them? I'm too humiliated to go
Same
to
thing.
them.
Same thing.
He can't. If he can't go to them,
It's the same as not having.
I mean, I would assume it's the same. I
The
don't
point
know.
is they're not a resource.
What?
You get the gas from Bruce to go to them.
What?
I get calls, no, seriously, I get.
I know,
get
but
calls
this is
every
the point
day.
you saw, because sometimes someone's collecting money for someone, and you're like, this guy, his share is a career. What's it about? It says his share is a career, and his share wants to help other people. He doesn't get enough covered by helping his agent.
Send the other guy. Oh my God.
What?
Send the other guy to his brother.
Send.
The other only to the brother.
Right.
There's always a story, but never many
Exactly.
times. This is not a resource.
Exactly.
Very sad.
It's probably better, like he's saying. It's probably better. You help the guy who's brother, and then send the other one to the brother-in-law. He's gonna get. Then all of a sudden he's gonna get money. Right? So this is a very, very, very negative halacha that, unfortunately, even though the ikar stuck is by kroivim, it's not always. What's it called? Niskayim that way. And one other thing he talks about is that what if in the Seder Kedima, a guy that's a wealthy guy comes to you, but he needs the money, so you're being kind of a chazak boy. Not wealthy, whatever, but a guy that is not poor. So you can kind of some chesed by giving him the loan. But you know, in the back of your mind, you have a feeling that you may need the money tomorrow to help an ani. So, in the Seder Kedima, does it go by what's in front of you? Or the fact that you know that tomorrow it's going to come, does that trump the chiv of today?
I think today.
What?
You do today. but-
So Pashas you do today, but he says unless you have to know yourself. You're already some elakah. Really, you're much more comfortable lending the wealthier guy. You don't really want to lend the poor guy. And the poor guy called you up and he says, I'm going to be by your door tomorrow. You know he's coming. You know he's coming. It's like he's in front of you. He happens to be. He's landing in Miami tomorrow. But today he's not here. He's still, right? So, Lamaisa, if you know, and the only reason you're giving away the money so that when he comes to you, you could say, you gave it out already, that's not okay. That's the Yerismel Kecha. You have to know that, you got to be honest with yourself. That don't go like hiding your money.
Talk about the Eretz Yisrael.
Who? And the Eretz Yisrael is after Krodim and after Ne'er. And Krodim is before Ne'er also. And then Ne'er, and then Eretz Yisrael. Okay. There's a lot in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim about in the hashkafa of it. Is maybe we'll see if we discuss that next week or we'll go on to the next Indian over here. But this is the background of the whole mitzvah. That, the chiyuv is it's a strong chiyuv and it's a strong mitzvah. And he says over here that this is the mitzvah b'tzedakah tziyam b'mishpat tipadeh v'shaveh b'tzedakah. That this mitzvah is a mitzvah will bring you and mitzvah.
Where's giving to a shul?
What?
Where does giving to a shul fit in?
Mitzvah giving to shul is more like chesed than mitzvah. It's not in Sibor. Like, you have to give to a shul. Like,
But also,
the
if it came to rough
Right.
down.
That's true.
Saying, yeah, but